Press the button. It's working.
Tabletop role-playing news. We aim to amuse and we aim to enthuse. And Morris's unofficial tabletop RPG.
Hello, and welcome to Morris's unofficial tabletop tariff talk. I am Russ, aka Morris, or Morris, aka Russ, and with me this week is
PJ Coffey from the Southampton Guild of Role Players and Homebrew and Hacking TTRPG Design. Russ, as ever, I am delighted to be here, even on this especially warm and unseasonably delightful sunny day. Joining us also, and you'll be pleased to hear that she comes at no additional costs, hidden surcharges, or other value-added taxes. Although some might argue that she should, because she is, in fact, a luxury. It is the one, the only.
It's me, Jessica from EM Publishing. And I love how we dive right into the tariff talk, because that has been the shadow upon my week as the person at EM Publishing who generally tries to find solutions for logistics and shipping and fulfillment. This week, I've just had none, which has made me feel very upset and very useless.
Shall we jump into it then? Shall we not prevaricate? Shall we not waste the time? Let's get right into the tariff.
Unlike Doom.
Yeah, let's jump in.
Doom does explain, or we will try and explain the Doom.
We are not legal professionals, so nothing we say here should be given as advice, etc., etc.
We are not lawyers, and we are most definitely not your lawyers. Yeah.
Do not get legal advice from a role-playing game news podcast. That's a terrible idea.
And if you're going to do that, don't make it this one. But anyway, Russ. So for those
that 20 future, they're legal professionals, I'm sure.
Well, obviously, with the tariffs, they impact more than just tabletop RPGs. We are very aware of that. It's going to affect everybody. But I think for the scope of this conversation, we are just going to make it about tabletop games for now, just to make it relevant for the podcast.
Sorry.
But I just want people to know that we are aware that this is everything. But anyway, Russ, what's happened this week?
So, for those that may have missed it, because it was a bit low key, it didn't play much on the news, but there are a few new tariffs introduced by the United States this week. I know this will be a shock and news to many.
Why would the United States whack extra taxes onto its citizens?
What an excellent question, Peter. You
Well,
are
that information
I
we
can't
don't
answer the
have.
question. However, I
Okay.
can tell you what the tariffs are, and we can talk about what they mean for the tabletop RPG industry.
Yes.
So, as probably everybody listening to this knows, this is pretty much a global tariff, a minimum of 10%, pretty much on most territories, with a lot more on others. And the ones that really, really affect our industry, the primary ones that affect our industry, are those on the EU and China, which is where most of the non-US based manufacturing of tabletop games takes place. We, for example, we print our books in Lithuania, and we make our boxed sets in China. So both of those two tariffs affect us. Most of Europe and UK game publishers will print in the EU and China. While the US does have printing capacity, a lot of US companies also print in China. And if you're talking board games or games with boxes or screens or tokens, you're almost certainly going to China, because domestic capability isn't really great for that sort of thing.
Yes.
Well, like outsourced over the past 20-30 years.
Yeah. I mean, like, even our EU-based printer who does our hardcover books and so forth can't do those, which is why we have to go to China for when we've got like a box set with cards and tokens and things like that in it.
Because we originally went to them and said, hey, you do our books, we know it'll be a bit more expensive, but how much would it be for this? And they're like, do you know what? No, we're not set up to do this.
We can't do that, yeah.
And I think it's a quality thing as well, because especially the printers we work with, they know what they're doing. They do it to a really good level, and they know if they don't want to hodgepodge something, So, yeah.
Yeah. So this is something that, it doesn't just affect us. Obviously, it affects not just our industry, but in our industry, it affects pretty much any company that is going to be importing product into the US. And given that the US is a good sort of 70% of the TTRPG market, that's pretty much every company. Most companies sort of our size and larger will probably have distribution hubs in both the EU or UK and in the US, possibly one down near Australia as well. So these tariffs are basically going to affect those shipments which are either going to go from China to the distribution hub they have in the US, or from the EU to the distribution hub they have in the US. And the tariffs, the ones from the EU are 20%, which is quite hefty.
Well, that's a lot of extra.
The one from China is currently sitting at 54%. It's enormous.
And that, for most tabletop RPG publishers, is kind of their margin. Because a lot of publishers, like, if they're doing their first project or you're doing something, you don't have very big margins on your books and products that you make. Because a lot of people do this as a passion, as a hobby. So they're not doing it to make a lot of money. So for some people, that will be really significant.
Yeah.
It does depend upon how it's calculated, because it was initially 34%, and then there was like talk of an extra 20% or something on top, right? And that isn't the same as 54%.
It's the other way around. It was 20,
and then they went to 34. But that makes it something more like 80%.
There are other tariffs on Chinese goods as well, which are added in some situations as well. So the Chinese situation is slightly more complicated, because depending what industry you're in, there are also other things going on as well.
Because if it applies, like they apply a tariff and then they apply another tariff on top, that's got a larger effect. Do you see what I'm saying? As opposed to if they just raised the tariff, which would be bad, right? Oh, this is good. But the least bad way is 54%. It could be worse.
Yeah. And one interesting tariff I noticed was on the British Indian Ocean Territory, I believe it's called. The population of which is one US military base.
Diego Garcia, if memory serves.
I'm sure that will affect their economic output and all the many manufactured goods that they create on their Air Force and ship.
Export from the USA to the USA.
Yeah. One thing I
Yeah.
want to be clear, because I've seen some chatter online. I've seen, Russ, you mentioning this in the forums as well, because some people had the idea of, okay, well, if you're manufacturing in China, why don't you take that thing that you printed at the manufacturer, send it to your home in the UK, so there's no tariff, and then send it from the UK to the US? Doesn't that get around it? Unfortunately not, because when you're importing products, you have the documentation that says where it was made and like the health and safety information. Like for board games, you have
Yeah, you have the whole
CE
shipping and customs
certifications.
chain.
So all those forms will have the documentation that you need to move goods, and it says where it originally came from, and the tax is where it was originally made.
Yes.
But even if you zipped it through 5 or 6 countries,
yeah, you can't avoid the tariff by
Yeah.
shipping it through third party.
you can't do shipping laundering, which I was thinking, because it reminds me of money laundering in that
Yeah.
sense. I guess you could illegally do that, but that's
called smuggling, Jess. There's a word
that's
for that.
called smuggling, and that's
And I've
again,
never actually heard of game smugglers. Maybe there is a game smuggler. I don't know.
I
Han Solo
wonder-
smuggling boxes. Smuggling
Well,
boxes.
It's historical precedent, bootlegging, alcohol prohibition. Like we're seeing like a really strong economic incentive for that sort of illegal behaviour. Maybe not for board games, but maybe for
Doesn't
other
seem likely.
things.
I don't
Like
know.
I mean, it feels likely, but honestly, like with the prices being as they are, like and people being as desperate as they are. Anyway, moving on.
It's called cardboard crack for a reason.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, there's something called the de minimis threshold, which a few people sort of mention. So this
Yes.
generally applies to mainly single orders. So you're in the US and you're ordering something from, I don't know, Sweden. If that order, which might be a game or something, comes to less than the de minimis threshold, then these tariffs would not apply. However, that no longer applies to goods made in China. It's been since February, I think, that went away for goods made, because it's affected the board game industry since February. But also, it doesn't help publishers who are shipping like pallets of books.
Yeah.
Because the de minimis threshold for the US currently is $800.
Yeah. You'd have
And a pallet of books is worth a lot more than $800.
You'd have to try and do your distribution from China, maybe, to try and do that.
Yeah, well, that's not.
Well, no, you could. I mean, in theory, with de minimis,
Oh.
you could from China ship to, so for example, for us, the UK hub, and ship from us where we live in the UK to the US individual orders. But that doesn't apply anymore, as Russ was saying, because the
origin of the product
removed
is
it.
China, and therefore the de minimis does not apply because China does not get that.
Even
at
if
the moment.
so I in the UK sent a book to my friend, you know, in the US, if that came under that category, they could get a customs bill when they go to pick it up from the post office.
Yeah. So I suppose UK got 10% tariff, like for EM publishing. I'm not saying this is what you're doing on anything, but you got an EU printer, gets sent to a UK distribution centre, and if it's distributed from the UK individually, that would be, then you'd have the overseas shipping. Yeah, it's just a terrible situation. Yeah. You've already thought about this, and you said
we're running the numbers at the moment. I mean, is it cheaper to have the tariff, or is it cheaper to ship an individual order from the UK? That sort of thing. We haven't actually run all those numbers yet.
Yes.
Wow.
But
it is more expensive either way.
Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's kind of what happens. And exactly what Russ is saying, the big issue, the immediate issue, is how quickly this has come into place, because we are in this situation. We have books on a boat. The Monstrous Menagerie 2 and Gate Pass Gazette are being loaded at port, going on a boat to the US. And when we'd originally paid for our shipping and our customs and our paperwork, this tariff didn't exist. So now when they arrive in the US, there will be an invoice we get with that tariff. Yeah. And we don't have any time to pivot, or can't change our plans because it's on a boat.
We've actually got 4 different products basically in various stages of sort of fulfillment chain. So we've got 2 in China, which is a Split the Horde, our card game, and the Void Runners Codex, which is like a boxed set sci-fi expansion
with tokens and maps,
and maps and all sorts of things in it. Which is why we had to make it in China. So those 2 are coming from China, and neither of those are books. They're you know, they don't even, because
they do have books, but they're not legally classified in terms of customs.
They include books, but they're not books. So they're basically board games, I suppose. They are role-playing products.
That's how they're classified.
Yeah.
In terms of customs.
So they're going to be hit by the big China tariff. And then we've got two other ones, which is Monstrous Menagerie 2 and what's the other one, Jess?
Gate Pass Gazette, that's on the boat.
Gazette, which are printed in Lithuania, in the EU. They're going to be hit by the EU tariff. So four. We've got 4 different shipments straddling this tariff announcement, which I think is probably quite unique. I don't know how many companies have 4 Kickstarters straddling one tariff announcement.
Ridiculous.
But I mean, a lot of companies, if you're as like small company, it's getting hit with a sudden bill that's, you know, thousands of pounds maybe because you're sending in a whole shipment. You haven't budgeted for that. If you've really carefully budgeted your crowdfunding to print the things, to send the things, to pay your artists, to do the shipping, to suddenly get an extra significant bill, that's going to be a real problem for a lot of people. And it's no fault of their own for not planning, because this has just happened to them. Like, if literally you've got products on the boat right now.
From a business perspective, you can, you know, things happen, taxes happen. It's what you got to deal with. So you plan it in, you build it up. But the situation is absolutely just it's
too volatile to plan for, unfortunately.
Like, because there were taxes, then there are not taxes, then what the hell's going on? You know?
It could change again tomorrow. And you know,
it's how quickly they come into play that's the issue. It's not like this is happening and in 6 months these will come into play, which is usually what happens with things like this, because we've had things like this before. Like, we had some new regulations in the EU for things when you're on packaging, but we had notice for that.
You can plan for it.
So we planned for it in our manufacturing. So we knew we had to put information on our products if we want to sell them in that country, and we had time to do that. But anyway, Russ,
so I've got a whole bunch of quotes from various publishers and from GAMA, the Game Manufacturers Association, about this. But before we get on to that, and I'll whip through those in a minute, because there's various people who have said how it's going to affect their companies and their plans and things like that. And before we get on to that, I want to talk about some of the ways that game companies can go about handling these increased costs. Because what's also important to remember is, even if you are in the US and you are manufacturing in the US and selling to US customers, you will still be affected by these, because the likelihood that your manufacturing process involves no components or materials imported from overseas is very low. I mean, we saw the TTRPG prices go up by as much as 50% earlier this month or late last month, didn't we? On their print-on-demand prices. That's because they source paper from Canada.
It has been hit with tariffs, because that's how you treat your closest neighbour and ally.
So, you know, so we got a number of different. So the first thing a publisher could do, and this is a hard one. Some publishers have kind of had to do it because they've already, charged shipping on pre-orders or Kickstarters, and you can't just go back to people and say, "Hey, now I want some more money." You've got an agreement with them. You have to now honour that agreement. Is they eat the tariff themselves. So basically, they pay it. Certainly on something that's already had the shipping paid for. Going ahead further into the future, that's probably not a long-term viable thing that you can do.
No.
But if you are caught by surprise, like we have been, that might be the only option available to you. I mean, most games don't have a 54% profit margin. It's gonna.
Oh God, no. Wow.
Yeah. The other one, of course, and a lot of people just say, "Why don't you just manufacture in the US?" I mean, it's not that easy. So there's a whole bunch of issues. That number one, US printing costs are higher than if you were to print in Lithuania or if you were to print in China. That's number one. So still, the cost will go up. Number two, you'll then be in a situation where you then have to export goods to the EU, to Canada, to other places where games are sold, and reciprocal tariffs are almost certainly going to be coming into place.
100%.
So you're still going to be hit by tariffs. Maybe not as high, but it's still going to happen. Number three, US printing capacity isn't up to the task.
No.
There's a reason a lot of US companies print in China, because the facility isn't there for the US to take on the burden.
I mean, that is like the result of choices as part of a global economy. It's like, well, we'll just offshore the printing
Well,
and
that's the same
manufacturing
problem. Yeah,
capacity.
the UK
Yeah,
can't do it either. We haven't got
yeah,
the printing capacity. That's
yeah,
why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why
it's
we
like,
print in Europe, because we want to print near us so we can have a
yeah,
relationship with the manufacturer and it makes sense for us. But there wasn't anyone that could do
Yeah.
the service in the
yeah,
UK, which is why we're in
Yeah.
Lithuania,
Yeah.
over
Yeah.
the water a little way.
Yeah. And you got to bear
Yeah.
in mind these printers aren't just printing RPG books. Like your average printer in the US is going to be printing books,
yeah.
leaflets, all sorts
Yeah.
of things. You know, RPG books is probably just the tiniest part of what they do.
Yeah.
You know, so and this is affecting every industry. So
Yeah.
you know, it's affecting the novels they're printing. It's affecting the
Yeah.
magazines they're printing, the instruction
Yeah.
manuals for IKEA furniture, or well, that's
Yeah.
but whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah. If it gets printed commercially, it is being affected. It's not great.
Yeah. So of course you could try splitting a print run between the US and EU or China, but of course. One of the big things about print runs is you get an economy of scale. The more you print, the cheaper per unit it costs. And that goes down quite drastically. If you're printing one book, if you just go and look at a print on demand cost for one book, it can be sort of like $40 for a big premium. Once you're printing 100,000 of those books in China, you're talking a couple of dollars. You know, that's how much it goes down.
It starts coming towards the cost of the raw materials, because at that point it's basically just let the machines run. And there's no labor involved. There's no like big changeovers. It's just going, which is like why Hasbro is so much more effective.
So splitting your print run,
give us $1 million bucks.
Increases your costs. So that's the problems with the whole just manufacturing the US solution. It's not really a viable solution.
No.
I mean, it might be for some. It might be for some companies in the US who mainly want to market to the US. The prices will still go up, but possibly not as much as
Like if you're using Drive for RPG, which I am because I'm small time and also very lazy, it's like they got printer center lightning source in the US and one in the UK. So this hopefully will not affect me, although I'm sure they'll find a way.
Yeah, I mean the printing POD costs from Drive for RPG did go up last month as we reported at the time, though. So it has affected them just because the price of paper's gone up.
I mean black and white has gone up, especially, but like I've positioned myself as a premium product for GMs, and so it's like, you know, top quality color, and that's what I focus on, quality. So the prices are about the same for me. It's not affecting me, but there are other people who are like much more focused on cost, and that is going to hit them very hard. Because when you're focused on that, then it's a problem. I'm just grateful to escape it, or to escape the worst of it, because at 50% cost, I'd be like, well, I don't know.
Yeah, unfortunately, we're getting hammered. We're getting properly hammered.
Okay.
Still.
So what are the other options that the publishers have? One is to eat it.
One is to eat it. One is to try and manufacture in the US, which is basically what the goal of the tariffs is, to try and move manufacturing to the US, but that's not really feasible. The final one is pass the cost along to your customers. And that is probably the most feasible one. It's probably the one that you're going to see most happening. It's the most realistic one. The cost of making the product has gone up. You have to charge customers what it costs to make the product. You can't charge them less than it costs, because that's the opposite of doing business. You know, that's just, that's rule number one. Don't sell products to your customers for less than it costs you to make them.
Unless I become a billionaire and can just afford to give people free RPG books because I'm nice. Sadly, I'm not. But I am going to buy a lottery ticket later. Just remember.
Remember, if you're selling at negative margin, you can't make it up in volume. I think there's an Order of the Stick cartoon about that, and if I realised that was coming up, I'd have grabbed it for you. But anyway,
but the price of games is going up. Whatever happens, the price of games is going up. You know, whichever solution publishers adopt, whichever one is feasible for them, and it will be different on a case by case basis for different publishers. Prices are going up as a whole across the industry.
And that sucks for publishers, and it sucks for customers and people that love
it does
RPG books, because there's a cost of living crisis. Like, the cost of everything's going up. So if you're a hobby gamer, perhaps you don't have as much disposable income to spend on your hobby, and now you know that the cost of your hobby is going up. It's like, well, actually, I was going to buy maybe 2 books, but I can only afford to buy 1 now. And then that means other publishers aren't selling their books because people are having to choose which one they go for. And yeah,
I think it's important to realize that what we sell is luxury products. It's not necessities.
Yes.
And when people's wallets are being stretched, the first thing that goes is the luxury products.
Which of course it should, yeah.
Like, it's elastic versus inelastic demand. Like the demand for our TTRPG books is pretty elastic, and that's just how it is. The demand for, say, healthcare, completely inelastic. So one of these things,
whatever,
like you can
And
charge
food.
pretty much whatever you like. Food, like, that's inelastic. People need food. People need healthcare. People need fuel for their cars, that sort of thing.
Housing.
Housing. Oh wow. Just go in there, Jessica. Just go in there straight away.
All right, sorry. Let's bring the scope back to tabletop RPGs, though. Otherwise, we're going to spiral like my brain did yesterday.
These are elastic products, and it happens. So
So one thing I would say is what can customers or people that are fans in the hobby do to like support publishers that they know are going through it? Like what?
I mean, it's difficult. It's difficult. I mean. I don't know.
One thing I would say is please be understanding of publishers, especially if it's one that you know, trust, and have supported for a long time, if their prices go up, and don't be like, they're just price gouging us.
I did notice one. It was actually one of the first responses to my article about this, because I wrote yesterday a pretty sort of longish article, which was cover this entire topic. And one of the first responses was, I bet like publishers are going to use this as an excuse to put their prices up. It's like, wow, blame it on the evil little publishers.
I mean, if you want to talk about the rising cost of eggs, maybe talk about, I don't know, the company that has the monopoly on egg sales in America. They might know what's going on with why the price is so high. It's not bird flu. They might know a thing or two about, I don't know, prices. But publishers in a highly competitive market,
we got a
suggestion
there. So Christmas Bright, you can support publishers by buying digital materials, things like that.
Yes.
At present, there is no tariff on a PDF.
Yes. I actually think if you know of a publisher that's like, we're doing fulfillment, we're going to have to eat this cost, and you like them, go buy a PDF directly off their website. And if you go buy it directly from them as well, because sites like Drive-Thru RPG and things are great, but that site takes a percentage cut of that, as they should, because they're providing a service. But if you're like, do you know what, I really like these guys, I'm going to just spend $5 and grab something or something like that from them, that will probably be really helpful. But
it's 30 to 35%, depending upon whether you're selling your goods elsewhere from Drive-Thru RPG. I don't begrudge them the money because they saved me a lot of hassle. I never have to deal with distribution. I don't have to deal with distribution beyond telling them send books to these people, and then they take care of the rest. So I'm like, 30%, absolute bargain. I'm fine with that. Good job.
Absolutely.
Do business
well, I think we'll see a lot of companies moving towards print on demand now. Just because before an offset print run would save you a lot of money, especially if you like fulfilling quite a lot of orders. It would save you a lot of money. Now it's going to be saving you so much less money. The print on demand option looks more and more attractive.
Economical. I mean, and as I say, you don't have to, like, they handle the shipping and the distribution, and that is absolute gold for me. I don't have to have a house with like a small pallet full of books.
Exactly.
I mean, the only downside of that is the quality isn't quite there when it's compared to an offset print run. But
I would not be able currently. Drive-Thru RPG, and maybe if you're listening, this is something to think about, does not offer the option to add glamorous little ribbons to your books. And I am very much on record to saying I do love my little ribbons. It's one of the things I really value and appreciate about the sheer quality of the Ian Publishing stuff. It's like, say what you like about Ian Publishing, I'm sure people will, but they do make very nice books.
And very nice ribbons.
We make nice ribbons. Maybe just do print on demand, buy a box of ribbons and ship them out to your backers separately. That might be the solution going forward. Everyone does love ribbons.
Your own homebrewed ribbons.
So the haberdashery, let us go.
We could offer. Oh, but we could offer different array of colours.
Yeah, but
you could get rainbow ribbons. Ooh.
yeah, but
Let's have a look at what some publishers have said.
yes, what have
Yeah.
people said other
So
than
let's
us?
start with GAMA, the Game Manufacturers Association. They put
Yeah.
out a announcement. Most of the publishers have written kind of blog posts, and I'm not going to read the entire blog post out on a podcast because that is not
Is that not
fun for
interesting?
anyone. So I'm just going to pick like bits. So the
Yeah,
Game
highlights.
Manufacturers Association, nearly a third of all US consumer goods, including clothes, food, products, appliances, all sorts of stuff, but also games, are imported. This means higher prices across the board, and this 1-2 punch is likely to put many of our members out of business, force them to downsize, or lay off employees to survive.
Yeah.
And that's not just the publishers, of course. That's the retailers. That's the that's the whole industry.
Yeah.
Your friendly local game store is going to be struggling as well because the price is going to be higher. Therefore, they're going to be selling less.
Your friendly local game store is already struggling. This is not going to help.
Yeah, and so's your friendly local game publisher because it's not the industry to make a million in, is it?
Yeah, I mean, this wild tax that has been imposed on US citizens is just absolutely wild to me. I have no idea what they're even thinking. It's just, I mean, people calling it a tariff like it, but it's a tax on US citizens, like to buy stuff from abroad. It's wild.
Sucks for them. Stuff's going to be more expensive for them. It's not really fair. Stuff's already expensive for them.
I know, right? Goodness.
We've got Steve Jackson Games yesterday talked about why not manufacture in the US. They say, I wish we could, but the infrastructure to support this doesn't meaningfully exist here. Steve Jackson Games says, I've gotten quotes. I've talked to factories. The equipment, labor, and timeline simply aren't there.
Yeah.
So, it's not something that you can just do.
Yeah, I mean, it's been like 2, 3, 4 decades of like moving manufacturing abroad, and that has sort of worked. But like that to then say, okay, we'll just bring it all inshore. It's like, well, how are you going to do that? We don't have the stuff.
Yeah. Cobalt Press has pretty much said prices are going up. The short and sweet is 20 to 50% more to produce.
Wolfgang was not messing around, was he? He was write to your congressperson if you dislike this.
So there's no way to just move these projects to the US. There's very little we can do about it. If you're unhappy with the price hikes, contact your representatives.
It's pretty much the only way. It's like it's ultimately it's not like a result of, I don't know, fuel prices rising or some actual problem. It's not actually a structural problem in the economy. It is an arbitrary taxation that has been imposed at no notice. It's like it can be undone. It's not a law of nature. There's no.
Well, it was done on a whim, and it can be undone on a whim. It's
yeah.
Sorry, I just stopped to stare into the abyss for a minute. I'm back.
So the Arcane Library, Shadow Dark. This is another Kickstarter straddling the tariff situation. Big, approaching $2 million Kickstarter going on right now. However, the current tariffs, severe though they are not going to impact pricing or deliverability of the Western reaches. We planned for this in our margins and can safely absorb the cost. So they are going to eat the tariff. So, as I said, people who are in that position pretty much haven't got a lot of choice about that. Once you've already kind of started your Kickstarter, it's kind of hard to turn around and just ask for money.
You've had to go high because, I mean, honestly, if you've been paying attention to the news, then it's like, well, things are going to get pretty expensive really quick. So,
So Evil Baby Entertainment, who make the Broken Empires, have said the same thing. Here we go. I've heard horror stories about other Kickstarter creators who charge backers additional fees to cover such unanticipated costs. Rest assured, my backers will not be charged any additional fees. I will eat the cost of the tariffs myself. Not going to lie, that's going to hurt.
I mean,
that is good of them to do so, but it's like if other people do have to charge, that I would say is not that they're bad people, but that they they just don't have the money to cover it. This is not a business that is full of like, I was going to say billionaires, but I don't even know if we've got millionaires in this business. There might be a couple kicking around.
Yeah, there's a couple, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it's not.
Who are they? Can we speak? Sorry, can I speak to them? Sorry, that came out.
Jessica, you're not supposed to be looking for a job right now. This is a terrible time.
Anyway,
but it's like people do not have a lot of stuff. Like I would definitely be in dire financial straits if I'd had to increase the price of all my books by 50%. I'd be like, I just have the margin for it.
Yeah.
So Coyote and Crow.
Oh yeah. What did they say?
Grim.
Yeah. A cumulative 54% import tariff on goods from China will essentially kill my company. Dire predictions from there. Hopefully the situation will change before that happens. I really hope it does.
I think there's going to be a lot of companies that don't survive it. And there's going to be a lot of distributors and a lot of games retailers. And then that's going to knock into designers as well. Because if there's less publishers, and if you're an RPG writer, there's less people hiring for that, etc., etc., etc. So it just shrinks the whole industry.
Yeah.
So the industry model might have to change, and
I think it's going to shake up the industry in a big way, and not for the better. It's going to make a lot of changes in the industry. I think it's got a chance of kind of like hollowing out like the really big companies like Hasbro and the like. It will hit them, but they'll be fine. The really tiny companies, like Peter, again, will hit you, but you'll be fine in the long run.
Me specifically, I'm fine because of my specific deliberate choices that I made. Which were very much part of my background. There are a lot of people like me who will not be fine because they have different values.
The people that's going to hit is the people doing offset print runs that need to ship en masse into the US, which is kind of the middle section of the industry. And that is what's in danger of getting hollowed out.
Jessica's waving at the camera because that is a good description of EM publishing. Absolutely.
I mean, we're at the lower end of that, but
yes, we're very small.
Yeah, absolutely. So smaller companies definitely going to be hit very hard. And like Hasbro, I suppose they should just fire more people maybe in time for Christmas. Who knows?
They were going to do that anyway.
Peter, I think you wanted to talk briefly about how these tariffs were calculated.
Well, I mean, like this is what I read online. Like, please don't mistake me for an economics expert. I just have a wide range of interests. That's
it's a bit blurry, but that's the list of tariffs.
So there's let me just bring up the information. There's a chap called I'm going to say James Surowiecki, who has figured out where the tariff rates come from. Well, I'm spluttering a bit because it feels like really weird to be saying this, but he says that they took, for every country, they took the trade deficit of the US with that country, and then they divided it by the country's exports to the US. So the US has a 17.9 billion trade deficit with Indonesia, which I interpret as meaning that it imports $17.9 billion more goods from Indonesia than it sends to Indonesia, which is a fine and normal thing to have happen because Indonesia is a poor country. It makes stuff. The US is a very, very rich country. It buys stuff. So you have a trade deficit. And that's fine. That's normal. I mean, that might even be good, some might say. But that's outside the scope of this podcast. So 17.9 billion trade deficit. And Indonesia exports to the US 28 billion. So they divided 17.9 by 28 to get 64%, which is why Indonesia has a 64% tariff rate, which does seem to fit the available data and the information we have, but has economic policy.
Yeah, I mean, basically, what you end up in that situation is, say, a small poor country has a massive. The US has a massive trade deficit with that small poor country because that country cannot afford to buy luxury American goods. Because it's a poor country. You know, it's not like they're boycotting them. It's not like they're deliberately saying, no, we will not buy those expensive trainers. You know, it's
like if you're working like, you know, in a factory which is making t-shirts and so forth, then there is a fairly good chance that you probably don't have the cash to buy like an Apple computer, say. Your need for Apple, your need for Apple iPhones and so forth. Well, iPhone is actually a different case, in fact. But you may have more of a need for an iPhone or some sort of mobile phone. But like your actual desktop computer, high-end graphic design stuff, you don't have a need for that because that's not how your economy is set up, and that's not where you're making your money. So you're going to have these people who are producing basic goods, which the US requires a lot of. Are now, those basic goods are now wildly more expensive. And the more basic the good, right? Like, even if it's stuff like paper and so forth, like the more you bought of it, the higher the tariff is now on. So it's like it's attacking all the raw materials and LD, what we might call low end goods. Whereas like if you're at the higher end with like, I don't know, weapons, computers, like very fine finished products, maybe in cars, you're paying sort of I don't know, to be honest, but it's like you're going to hit the lower end of this hardest, which the country is least able to absorb the costs. It's and the way they've done it is just like it's like there's no it's not a logical way to do it. It's not a sensible way to do it. It's not even right. I just it fits the available data, but it's a terrible idea. Anyway, sorry.
Do you know who else is going to really suck for? People who collect Nike trainers.
Oh yeah,
because they are made in Vietnam, I believe, in Indonesia.
Yeah.
And look at the tariffs on them. Looking at that list, 64%.
Yeah. I mean, at one stage, I think, Vietnam had a higher tariff rate than China, which is what made me like basically
90%. Sorry, Vietnam. Wow.
Yeah.
90%.
So in the world of the Trump administration, Vietnam is a greater economic threat to their interests than China. I'm like, okay, sure. Why not? Yeah, okay. Like it's. I'm just going to throw my hands up in the air, listeners. That's all I can do. I just throw my hands up in the air. I don't know. There's no. I'm not a fan, right, of the administration, but like I do try to see the logic behind people's decisions, even if I think they're terrible. But this is not a logical decision.
Yeah. What more can we say about tariffs and how this will affect the tabletop RPG industry? Because we've kind of explained what it is, what's happening, how it's going to affect, what people have said, maybe some ideas about what you can do to be nice to publishers you want to support. What more can we say on this?
I mean, most publishers are going to be doing exactly what we did, going into a sort of crunch mode, running the numbers. Probably won't have made plans yet. We haven't yet. Made plans yet. That's something that takes a bit longer to work out exactly what you're doing. You don't. Yeah. It takes longer to plan how to react to these tariffs than it does to sort of implement them on a whim, I guess. Such is life.
Yeah. We've got some stuff it's going to change the RPG industry basically. And it's like so like some ideas I've seen are how to make smaller because we're talking about digital. A lot of people enjoy having physical media. So there's a lot of stuff like folded zines. So zines could maybe make a bit more of a comeback. 20-page RPG zines that you can print at home in such a way that you can actually just make your own books at home. It's like not the experience that I'm used to, but maybe that is the future of TTRPGs.
Okay. I am going to throw a slide up on the screen.
Oh, check you out.
There we go. Yeah, so who and what is this?
Okay, so this is so for listeners at home, Restless Reference sign says print it yourself, TTRPG zine culture, or Zine if you're Morris. Issue 1, make your own foldies. And it's got like a little diagram about how one would take A4 or maybe letter size and then fold it into the shapes that you wish to see. This is from Shouting Crows, I think it is name. Shouting Crow, available from itch.io. Make your own foldie. It's part of a 3-part series, which are full of ideas for folding instructions, comparisons, and design ideas. And yes, I see that they have also added some Affinity Publisher templates for the downloads for both US letter and A5 size paper, which I'm glad to see and not surprised to see, because I saw them promoting this. I was like, you should do this for Affinity Publisher, because a lot of indie RPGs, publishers do use Affinity. So templates of that would be super helpful, my friend. And they were like, yes, I'll do that. And they have done it. So there you go.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. So like that's how I heard about it. It was just shouting out because like zines, 20, 32 pages, that sort of thing. There's a 3-part series. So if you wish to get your product out there, that may be a good way to do it.
Okay. I've got a bit of news about R.A. Salvatore's next novel.
Oh, yes, yeah.
The Finest Edge of Twilight. So, well known for the Drizzt character and books, R.A. Salvatore has a new D&D novel called The Finest Edge of Twilight. And this features Drizzt daughter, Breezy.
Breezy
Doerden.
That is a shortened version of the full Dark Elf name.
Of course.
Her full name, of course, is Easy, Breezy, Beautiful Cover Girl. The picture of the front cover of the book, for those listening along at home, says Dungeons and Dragons, the finest edge of Twilight, in purple. New York Times bestselling author R.A. Salvatore, and we've got like a nice young drow lady who is holding a sword up, I guess, to partially shield her eyes. Oh, Briennel Zaharina Doerden.
That's her full name. Briennel Zaharina Doerden. Yeah. I
stand by my statement.
Easy breezy cover girl. Absolutely. Yeah. No. So she's on the cover, and it's certainly something.
Yeah. So this is coming out October the 7th. And apparently it's supposed to kick off a whole new saga for Salvatore and the Forgotten Realms, with Breezy looking to step out of her parents' shadows. Features Dahlia. I don't know these characters now. Dahlia Sinfel, a recurring character from Drizzt's past. There's been so many books featuring these characters that I lost track years ago, unfortunately. But this is coming October the 7th. I'm sure it'll be great.
If you're a fan of the series, thanks for us. Wow, rude.
I don't think this is any shade to the book. I think we're all just in a place after discussing Tariffs for 45 minutes. Yeah. So it's really hard to do a gear shift, which is what you need to do on a news show. But sorry, I think that is what's happening. This is no shade to the book. I think
I loved the Homeland series. Really did. Drizzt Doerden, but that's about as much as I've read that trilogy.
I quite enjoyed the Crystal Shard. That was quite good.
Oh yeah, I read that trilogy as well. Yeah. But
There's
we're going back to the
trilogy
80s
now.
there, so
Well, how about it? Yeah. So it's it has more than a touch of romantasy from that cover. So who knows? Perhaps Salvatore will be breaking new grounds. Good for
yeah,
him.
maybe. Okay, right. News. Would you like funny news? News of people doing bad things? Or
You know what? You know what I would like?
What would you like?
I would like an excuse to talk about Baldur's Gate 3 this week, as I do every week.
Oh,
Would
okay.
How about that?
All right.
I spent a lot of time dissociating playing Baldur's Gate yesterday evening. That was fun.
Yes.
Honestly, I've just done my honor mode campaign, still have not died. But separately to that, Baldur's Gate 3 finds itself in the news with a crossover with another obsession game of mine, Stardew Valley.
Mhm.
We have the lovely Astarion there. So
Is
there
that
is
the
a
vampire?
mod. He is yes.
The
How
vampire.
did you guess? Oh, shock. Yes. So that
Yes.
is the twink vampire.
Mhm.
So Stardew Valley has a huge mod community. So this isn't made by the owners of Stardew Valley. There's just a huge mod community that makes loads of stuff. They're really passionate and creative. And someone made a Baldur's Gate 3 style mod so that the villagers that live in the Stardew Valley village that you should talk to are Baldur's Gate 3 characters. And they weren't like selling it. It's just there's a whole team called Nexus Mods, and they make them. And it's had over 4,000 downloads. This community, they spent over a year making it. But yeah, and even the CEO of Larian, Sven, like praised it and was like, "Oh yeah, like free quality fan mods highlighting the characters shows that the work resonates." And so was generally like, "Yeah, this is great."
Basically,
However,
free
Russ,
advertising material at this point.
yeah. However, Russ, what did Wizards of the Coast do?
Well, Wizards of the Coast issued a takedown notice against it.
Oh,
On
good
March
job.
the 29th, the mod went into something called moderation review and was no longer available. However, there is a happy ending.
Oh?
Because they changed their minds.
Yay.
After a bit of public backlash, I guess. Issued a statement saying it was all a mistake. Oops. I accidentally tripped and issued a takedown notice against your mod. They say
look, cats walking across keyboards are responsible for a lot of strange emails. So like in the legal department, the cat just walked across a keyboard and accidentally typed out a full takedown notice to be sent to these people, and then press send on the thing. It's like it was a tap dancing cat, but still that's what happened.
Oh, I mean, infinite monkeys and all that. I guess it's theoretically possible.
I think a cat would write a takedown notice just for petty revenge.
Yeah, most probably, yeah.
Like they'd been half an hour late being fed.
They're
like, this is unacceptable.
Just because.
Yeah. So
for the whim.
So what Wizards said, they said the Baldur's Gate Village DMCA takedown was issued mistakenly. We are sorry about that. We're in the process of fixing that now, so fans and the Stardew community continue to enjoy this great mod.
All right.
Is what they said. So it was an accident, allegedly.
Well, it's been resolved, but I wanted to bring it up because it's an excuse to mention Baldur's Gate 3. And I mentioned I hadn't played it for a few weeks, but full back with the addiction. Yeah, I played like 3 times this week, so yeah, it's back. Don't worry.
See, this is the first time that Wizard of the Coast has like issued takedown notices and then changed their mind. Of course,
is it not?
Recall the YouTubers in August last year who were previewing the Player's Handbook?
Oh yeah, God! Poor old Mike, Sly Flourish and so forth. He got
there was a whole bunch of them. Got a whole bunch of copyright strikes and takedown notices and things like that. Wizards did eventually reverse their decision again in that occasion, saying it was done in error. But
that whole yes. We've sent you a copy of our book to review, so we'd like you to talk about it, but no show, only talk.
Don't show people. It's
Don't
secret.
show people what the book is. Don't show people the goods. God, no, we don't want people to be able to see what they're going to buy or from the review. That would be a terrible plan. What if they went through the screenshots and made their own version of it? What then? Did you think about that?
We didn't tell you when we sent you the book, but we waited till after you'd made your video and posted it, and now we're telling you don't you need to do that.
So you got some strikes against your YouTube account, yes, to really, really help that salt into the open wound massage. Yeah, sprinkle on some lemon juice as well.
But anyway, okay.
Talking of organizations doing shady things.
Yeah, this is fun as well.
Well, we'll get this one out of the way, and then there's some reasonably good news later. So
nice. Okay, right.
Okay. Right. So
what have they done now? Oh God.
So what has happened is the marketing and communications manager of the Game Manufacturers Association in GAMA, which is the big US trade organization for the hobby games industry. They've been around since the 1970s. They run the Origins Game Fair, the GAMA Expo, the Origins Awards. They do business support and industry-focused educational stuff and it's the whole industry. So it's publishers, retailers, distributors, freelancers, everybody. So it's a trade organization. The marketing and communications manager, who joined the company only in October, has resigned. So this is Amy Lowe. So this is what, 3, 4, October, November, December, January, February, March. 5 months. Did the job for 5 months. She wrote a resignation letter with a number of allegations about GAMA.
Oh, okay.
No, not about specific people, just about the general sort of culture at GAMA.
All right.
She says the GAMA is deeply siloed and in many ways broken.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Toxic leadership. Rampant gatekeeping.
Oh, okay.
Insecurity masquerading as control.
Already.
Disrespect towards other staff and members.
Ooh, that's not good.
Yes. She said that there were internal dynamics which she characterized as petty, power hungry, and counterproductive.
Right. Okay.
And she resigned.
Well, if that's the way you feel about the organisation, that's probably a good idea.
I guess so. This was reported by ICV2 originally, and they reached out to GAMA for a statement on this, and they got a response from John Stacey, executive director at GAMA.
Okay.
And John Stacey basically said, talked about GAMA a little bit, and then said, while I disagree with her categorization of our staff, we appreciate the brief time she is with us and wish her well in her future adventures.
Okay, so it's not really a statement. That's a very...
No.
That's like asking for a reference and saying they worked here between these dates.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you and goodbye.
Yeah.
So
we don't really know the truth of this. We don't know whether that's the case, whether that's,
We are reporting what she has said, though. That's what I'm saying.
And what they said in response.
Hesitant.
Well,
No, I
didn't really say much in response, except that they disagree. I was like, okay. Well.
Yeah, I mean, I've got his full statement. Let me just flash this up on the screen. This is his full statement. Here we go. Show that. So that was the full statement. So over the past 8 months, GAMA has nearly doubled its staff to accommodate for our growing association. We now represent almost 1,700 tabletop game companies in 36 countries.
Nice.
As part of this growth, we've taken a hard look at how our staff was organized and made adjustments to better align with our 10-year strategic plan for GAMA to be the epicenter of the tabletop industry. While I disagree with the categorization of our staff, we appreciate the brief time she was with us and wish her well on her future adventures.
I mean, I've got to say, working in the tabletop industry, it's coming up to almost coming up to a decade of me when I quit my normal sensible job and started working full-time in tabletop. And there are lots of industries that have issues similar to this. The issue is when you're freelancing in the industry and you're doing small bit work and you're not like managing these companies, it's really hard to come up publicly and say something because it's such a small industry. Everybody knows everybody, and it becomes like a very said, you know, them versus them, because there's no way to kind of sometimes always prove this. So it's really difficult. And so I think it's interesting that she came out and said this. I mean, there's lots of companies, and I've got some companies that I don't recommend people work with, that I don't publicly say anything for because I don't want to deal with that. But I have a lot of friends that when they apply for jobs, they're like, Jess, I've seen this job posting. What do you think? And there are some companies that I just go, don't do that. Don't do that. So I think it's interesting that someone's publicly come out and said this, because that can be
strong.
Yeah.
When you're publicly doing that, you can sometimes be seen as the problem.
I mean, for me, I know some of the people at GAMA, but not many, and not well.
Well, Chris Spivey works for them now, as I recall.
Oh, does he?
Well, he's on some sort of oversight board or something.
Right. Okay.
I haven't heard from him in ages.
I mean, Chris Spivey's good people, and I know the people that I know that work at GAMA are good people. But I really can't speak to this at all. I mean, I'm not a member of GAMA, and I'm not privy to any internal discussions that go on there. So,
no, it's the American Game Organization. They've got like a lot of extra places, but we've got no insight into how they operate. Like,
I mean, one thing I'll say is, sorry, I interrupted you, PJ. Karen.
Oh, I was just saying, if the UK started working with it, then I don't know that would be very good for the UK game industry, because whilst it's good to have a professional organisation, it would be very much like a tiny little tail on a big old dog there.
I'm fairly sure that various UK game companies are members of GAMA.
There are lots of them that are, because it's meant to be an international association, so it's not country specific. A lot of it happens in the US because so much of the market is in the US. One thing I will say is that good people can run companies badly.
Very true.
And they can be, so if there's an organization that's not managed well and things aren't going well, it doesn't mean the people at the top are necessarily bad people. It can mean that, and that can be why, but it doesn't necessarily.
Should we talk about a good people at a company that's not run badly?
Oh, I'm listening.
Yes.
So, Robin D. Laws, a very prolific game writer and designer.
Feng Shui, amongst others.
Been writing for decades, and has been working with Pelgrane Press for like the last 20 odd years. Not exclusively, but at Pelgrane Press for the last 20 odd years.
I want to say Gumshoe with them, but
they did The Dying Earth as well.
That's right.
That Yellow King RPG, Cthulhu thing, all sorts of stuff. And also Robin Laws's Good Book of Game Mastering many years ago.
Yes. I think I've got that one off on my shelf somewhere.
I have it, behind me. Has taken a new job, been I guess promoted. I don't know. He's worked with, I think, as a freelancer for Pelgrane for ages, but has now taken a job as their new creative director.
Yes. Very nice.
So I guess that means he's going to be basically taking charge of their creative output.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've certainly got 13th Age 2nd edition in the tubes, and that's something here I've been working on. So it'd be good to see. Be good to see Pelgrane become a bit more of a force in the industry.
No, I love Pelgrane. I love their stuff. I love the people. So
likewise.
Good for Robin.
Good for Robin. Good for Pelgrane. Bit of pleasing news there.
Yeah, bit of good news. All right, do you want a bit of funny news?
Yes, please.
We go funny.
Yeah, do it.
So, what was it on Tuesday?
April Fool's Day.
It was April Fool's Day on Tuesday. And while there was a lot of jokes that were just like, whatever. There was one that I did like. I guess my vote for the best April Fool's joke in the tabletop RPG industry. It was put out by Evil Hat Productions.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to flash it up on the screen. It was an advert announcing the Fate 5e 2024 edition. And there's so many little jokes just on this one image. From the D6s with 10s and 20s on the side, to the reference to the new class, including revised Ranger _ D6.3 _ final ...
Ooh.
This is biting.
Ooh. Damn.
I mean, this is basically, I mean, it's basically a little bit of a dig at Wizards, but done with good humor, I feel, and I laughed when I saw it.
The final line is Fate 5e 2024 edition. It's just like all the other editions of Fate, but different.
Yeah.
Confused between Fate Core, Fate Accelerated, and Fate Condensed. Add a whole new rule set to your worries with Fate 5e 24 edition, now with over 160 additional classes.
Yeah, that's funny. That's witty. I like that, because I think you commented, Russ, online. You said some people just tell a lie on April Fool's Day, and they're like, "Hi, April Fool's," and I'm like, "But that's not funny.
That's
it's
not
just
an
you
April
just
Fool's
lied."
Joke. It's got to be either funny or clever, preferably both. But if you,
I would say this is probably both, to be honest.
If you just make something up, that's not an April Fool's joke. Anyone can just make something up. But
there's got to be something that sounds. But then we live in a time where it's like the Onion is struggling, fighting for its life to come up with fake
satirical news. When there's
I like some of those classes though. Conflicted Thief.
Yes.
Failed stand-up.
Meme Paladin.
160 additional classes. Lovely. Love that.
Yeah, that was a good joke. I liked it. That's my vote. That is my vote for the best April Fool's joke this year.
I like it. I'll join you. I'll add my vote to that cause, unless given any other info.
I don't think I've seen any other April Fool's jokes. It's all been a bit less humour has been in my feed than you might expect. Or exactly as much humour as you might expect.
I think my expectation is fairly accurate and on point with that.
Although, actually, whilst we are talking about humour in the RPG space, sorry, I'm trying to have a conversation here, and Francesca Soto's leaping with, I identify as a meme paladin, though. It's like, come on, give me a break.
Sorry, chat. The chat is chatting on the live stream, and it's sometimes hard to do a podcast because we have
we haven't said for those
followers
on the audio, of course. We are, as always, live streaming on YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook at 2 p.m. UK time, 9 a.m. Eastern time, and you can join in the chat, and see our faces if that is a thing that you think you can bear.
Anyway, speaking of funny, witty stuff, I will say witty and stand by that remark. Anthony Alipio has he's quite a quiet lad, but when he does come out with stuff, it's generally pretty funny, or at least I think it's quite funny. And like a couple of years ago, I was asked him to write some feats, and we started talking about exertion points, and then from that, because like we use exertion points, and like it's a terrible pun, and that's a vice that we both share. And from this has arisen the Secret Society of the Tangoir, which has quite a nice little links in a hood on the front cover, and you can get it now, which is pretty sweet. Okay. Sorry, Grant is apparently, he says it's 7 a.m. mountain, and you have to be a real sicko to be up at that sort of time.
Yeah, I don't believe 7 a.m. even exists.
But like,
I've never witnessed it, therefore I do not believe it exists. I've never seen any empirical evidence of the existence of 7 a.m.
Well, that's not true, because you've picked me up at 5 a.m. to go to a convention before now. So.
Oh yeah, damn it! You caught me out in my lie.
Yeah.
That's an unsuccessful April Fool's.
And myself and Morris are very pleasant people at 5 a.m. and both of us combined is
We
a
just
joy.
sit in the car. Just like,
We don't speak to each other. We just sit there, like being very displeased.
Then we get to the convention and we have to put up a sign, a stand, and usually we start niggling at that point.
Yes.
While we're putting up a stand.
Yes.
There's a reason I'm not seen with them in the first stages. I rock up like about 10 a.m. when they've had some coffee and some donuts, a chance to reset their blood sugar, so they become more like what we might call people, as opposed to, I don't know, us the grouch.
Yeah.
But anyway, sorry, I was talking about Anthony Olivio's work, which is actually quite funny because it's basically a combat tradition for Advanced 5th Edition, which is full of these exciting combat maneuvers. And it's pretty exciting. It's all about being fast moving and wild attacks and so forth. And it's let's say influenced by the works of Bruce Lee and Chuck Norris. So if you want some truly terrible puns, then you should get over and give them some support, because wow, it's gotta say it's pretty bad, but in a good way. I sort of hate it and love it at the same time. Sorry,
I do like a good combat tradition.
Yeah.
In the chat, Night Noon Games, have we talked about Shadow Dark breaking 2 million? I wasn't aware it had.
Oh, I thought we mentioned that when we were talking about the tariffs and so forth.
Did we?
Yeah.
I said it was approaching 2 million. I didn't realize it had broken 2 million.
Well,
I didn't realize it had passed that landmark. So congratulations.
Nice one, Kelsey. Good stuff.
Yeah. Very, very, very cool.
Sweet.
Yeah. That's going to come in at just over 3 million, I think.
Yeah, I think
that's
so.
that's doing
nice.
Well. Okay. Right. More news. What else we got?
Should we do more crowdfunding bits there? Because we were talking about Shadow Dark and that one.
Should.
So what other bits do we have?
Well, I'm aware of an itch funder that's on at the moment for trans rights in Ohio. I was very late submitting it, so I don't know if you're able to get it on, because my life has become disorganized and very busy for reasons that I won't go into. But there's a bundle with 225 creators with 467 items, saving an estimated $1,750 when you could get them all for $5, which is pretty good, including some classics like Callum from the Released, Life-Saving Magical Inventory, Rosewood Abbey, Tanya Floka's Load I Dread Empire, and just so many more indie games in here. You can get them all for $5. Going on for 28 days. They have currently so far raised about 55% of their $50,000 goal. So in the region of $28,000.
Very awesome.
Yeah, and what they're attempting to do is, Ohio is a state which has a weird and unpleasant number 9 anti-trans bills targeting healthcare, bathroom usage, schools, and more. So they're raising funds for queer-focused charities in Ohio, Trans Ohio, and the Kaleidoscope Youth Center to help protect the trans citizens of Ohio from their weirdo legislators.
Good.
Yeah.
Nice.
So good for them.
Very cool.
Do the young people not use the word Ohio to mean bad in slang as well?
Do they?
I don't know. You'd have to ask a young person.
Is that a thing?
Young people in the chat. I think I've heard that. I have nephews and nieces. I have nibblings. And no cap. Ohio.
Okay, I believe you. I've never heard that, but I believe you. Okay.
Well, I'm surprised you wouldn't have heard that, Russ.
Grant, representative of the young people.
Well, I am very youthful.
As they do,
admittedly, but.
So Grant is our representative of young people. Thank you, Grant.
Okay. I believe
no cap.
I believe you. Okay.
You keep saying no cap. I'm like, are you gonna say on God next? Is that the plan? Yeah. Okay.
Doesn't I'm trying to think of the other phrases I know from TikTok. Anyway, what other crowdfunding news do we have?
Oh.
What else do we have?
That was my bit of crowdfunding news. Oh, there is quite a good one actually that I saw. It's like it's very, very small crowdfunder, but it's for quite an interesting niche tabletop RPG because I like to try and find out these little exciting, eccentric ones. Like previously,
Yeah.
I talked about Pirouette, the ballet game.
Yes, that's very cool.
Yes, this one, whose name I have obviously completely forgotten because, like, I am a total professional. It's by Hessan Yongdi. It's called To Layer Foundation. And I had a nice chat with them online. And what it is, it's currently itch funding to get a bit of a glow up, a makeover, if you will, if you speak old like I do. And what they're doing is it's a role play about public service. So if you saw Parks and Recreation and said, "Hey, you know what would be funny? Doing like a bit of a RPG about that," then you're in for an excellent time. It's been done in response to the constant attacks on government organisations, which are largely staffed by people who are happy to take less money in exchange for public service. To put things in perspective, and civil servant staff as contractors. It's got. I don't know it too well because I wouldn't be able to run it, but I would be really excited to play in it. Does that make sense? It's like one of those games where I'm like, I don't know how I could run it, but I would love to play in it because it sounds like it would be a really unique experience. So it's like about things like encouraging cooperation by managing resources and covering for others' weaknesses. So it's like characters are built in a system that uses past experience, roles, and identities to create characters, and you're solving some sort of local government problem, which I don't know if I'd want to play like hours and hours or a campaign of it, but I think as a quick
one shot maybe.
It'd be a fun little one shot, and you could maybe be a bit silly, have a bit of fun, or you could maybe dig down and get super nerdy about it. A lot of different ways you could play this. So or even if you like things like the West Wing, apparently they reckon.
I do like the West Wing.
They've also listed influences.
Although the West Wing does seem somewhat fanciful these days.
It does, like with an articulate and well-spoken,
well-intentioned,
benevolent president. In fact, yes. Other references that are mentioned are things like House of Cards, Veep, Yes Minister, or The Death of Stalin. And I would 100% welcome the opportunity to play a Death of Stalin style game, because I gave Death of Stalin on the strength of Jacob Isaacs being in it, and it was absolutely hilarious, and I loved it, which I was not expecting. So there we go.
Okay. Right, I got a bit of news.
You're
aware of Compare the Market?
I know about comparing meerkats, but I'm not sure about.
So Compare the Market is basically an insurance comparison website.
How is this related to
How is this
games?
related?
This is where I go when I'm like, oh, I need to do more insurance things again because they've whacked up the prices again. So I'm going to have to find a cheaper quote again.
Yeah.
So what? Explain yourself, Morrissey.
Well, Compare the Market, for reasons best known to themselves, surveyed people across the US, Australia, and Canada.
Okay.
In order to find out their tabletop gaming habits.
Okay, so that would be board games as well, and card games.
Yeah, and like miniatures.
War games.
I mean, they called it tabletop role-playing and wargaming is how they referred to it. Okay. So this is interesting. So first of all, they asked people whether or not they played tabletop RPGs or war games, whether they used to or whether they don't. And what was interesting, so in the US, nearly 13% of people said that they play RPGs or war games.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Nice.
In Canada, it was just over 10% of people.
Wow.
And in Australia, it was just under 5%.
Well, they've got nice weather. They've got stuff to do outside.
Yeah, they've got barbecues to have and things like that.
But still, that's 1 in 20 people. That's a lot.
That's a lot of people, yeah. It's a lot of people. I mean, this didn't cover the EU or the UK or anything like that. So it's just those three.
I mean,
But
that's
when
like
you,
a million People potentially in Australia. Got a population of about 20
what's
million.
interesting
So.
though is when you count in the I used to collect and play these games. So it gets quite a bit bigger. So nearly 30% of people in the US either have played or used to.
Oh wow,
That's a lot. That's nearly 1 in 3 people. That's a lot of people.
Yeah.
In Canada, it's fairly similar, nearly 30%.
Nice.
And in Australia, it's a bit less. It's about 15%. But still, that's a lot of people. That's a lot more than I would have guessed at.
Yeah. I mean, anecdotally, and this is like, we know that the plural of anecdote is not data, but I hear
anecdote is the plural of anecdote. Fact.
Lovely. But quite a lot of times you have people who sort of are in gaming for a while, then children happen and they come out of it, and then about 10-15 years later, when they're no longer constantly wrangling sprogs, they come back in and
popularity of tabletop gaming amongst different age groups. Is that what we're talking about? Well, guess what? We looked into that too, and then made a graph.
Ooh,
look at that.
Shiny. Yeah. Okay, so yes, we've got graph going 18 to 84 Gen Z, 25 to 44 millennials, 45 to 64 Gen X, and 65 plus baby boomers.
Yeah, so 4 different categories going from 18 to 65. And this is the percentage of the respondents that said that they had or that they currently played. This is the results. So you can see that they start off high in the Gen Z category. Kind of steady-ish, declining a bit up into the millennials. Then it goes on to a sharp downturn. So once people hit about 40, it drops massively, and then it goes as far as 65 plus, where it's like under 10% of them still play.
Well, I mean,
it's not surprising.
D&D argued to be like a major role-playing game hobby is only like about 50 years old, so
that makes sense.
But it certainly got a lot bigger.
It's interesting. I guess they're doing all this research because people that are doing, I'm guessing, home insurance want to insure their hobby items.
I guess.
I had such an interesting conversation because I used to own a board game cafe back in the day, about 10 years ago, and we had over 700 unique titles and Oh, hello.
Sorry, I meant all 3 of us.
Felt very on the spot there. We had over 700 unique titles, but multiples of some of the popular things because, many people wanted to play Catan at the same time or something like that. And we needed to insure this because it's cardboard. We thought if we have a fire, they will disappear, or anything. And we were trying to do insurance for it, and it was a really interesting conversation with the insurance company because they wanted to value it and stuff, and they couldn't believe the value because I think the person on the phone was like, board games thinks like Monopoly. But even if it was Monopoly, like you buy a copy of Monopoly new, it's like still like 20 quid, isn't it? So and I was trying to explain to them because we had some collections that were like I think were like over £100. Like we had an original Hero Quest.
We're not just talking, we're talking war games as well.
War games. That's a whole
your
other
Games Workshop collection is going to be
that's a lot of money. So you should insure that if you can.
Thousands.
So
also for RPG books.
What we also got, they did ask them what games they played. This is interesting. Really? Look at this list.
So
this is tabletop games as a whole, not just like role-playing games. But as a whole, I was surprised to see no Games Workshop on there, no Warhammer on there.
Yeah.
First, I would have expected to see that there. It's not there.
Well, they got Warhammer 40k on there, Russ. Number 7. Yeah, number 7.
So
there is.
Okay, I saw Legions Imperialis. I didn't know that's what that was. Okay, yeah. Okay, so
I think that they seem to have compiled the 2 into one category for some reason. Which, So I don't blame you for getting confused because those 2. I don't think those things go together, do they? The hell's Legion Imperialis? Sorry,
I don't know. I don't know what it is. Yeah, but at the top of the list, we've got D&D there.
Yeah,
that's like bigger than everything. Bigger than the board games. Bigger than the war games. That surprises me. I would have always thought a board game would be at the top of that list, not a role-playing game. No, that does surprise me.
Well, did they include board games in this? Because they were saying it's tabletop games, so they've looked at role-playing
any of those
games
games
and
board
wargaming.
games?
So no, so these are like war games opposed to board games, I think.
War games and TTRPGs. Oh, Russ, just so you know, Legions Imperialis. Did you remember? Did you ever see Epic? Like, which is like where they had like the 5mm scale, so you could have like giant titans. Okay, so Legions Imperialis is like the 5mm scale version, so you can have giant war machines. That's why. And Warhammer 40k is like the 28/32mm scale.
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah. But yeah, so this list, we've got D&D at the top.
Yes.
And we've got Kings of War.
What even is that?
It's a war game. I'm not really familiar with it. Star Wars X-Wing, I know, at number 3, which is a skirmish game. I played that. I've got that.
Yeah, that's fun. Yeah.
Then at number 4, we've got BattleTech. Again, I'm familiar with that one. Big stompy robots on a hex grid.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, always fun. Cyberpunk. Is that?
I mean,
the RPG? I don't know.
This feels like question. This feels like they got like somebody's ground to ask the questions. It's like bring me some more.
I think in this context they mean the tabletop game, so opposed to the digital game or anything like that.
Yeah, but is that the role playing game, or is there a tabletop skirmish game, or what? I don't know which game it is specifically.
Maybe it's just both. Maybe it's just that brand. Maybe that was the drop down on the survey.
Maybe.
Do you play Cyberpunk? Yeah, sure. Why not?
Yeah, maybe. And then so we then got Star Wars, Warhammer, Marvel, Black Powder, which sounds like, I don't know, a pirate game. I don't know what that is.
That'll be Napoleonic, I would say,
maybe.
from context.
Okay.
And
then at number 10, we got Call of Cthulhu, another RPG sneaking into the top 10 there.
Nice.
Interesting.
Cool.
No Pathfinder.
They have made a note about the servers. They said, before you get up in arms saying, no way, that's right. This is based off a nationally represented survey sample of people, essentially sourcing people at random, ensuring there's an accurate number of people in each age demographic and a split between gender and things. So, so this is just their poll, just to be clear.
I've got a breakdown here between 3 countries. So USA, Canada, and Australia, the top 5. So you can see that D&D is at the top in all 3 lists.
Yeah.
And then it gets different under that. But not massively different, to be fair. Kings of War. In 2 of them. We've got Fallout Wasteland Warfare in there.
All right, Fallout game, yeah.
BattleTech's in 2 of them. Star Wars pops up a couple of times.
Star Wars does quite well. That's number 2, number 3, and number 4 in USA, Canada, and Australia. Good job.
Yeah. That's a big brand, isn't it? Big brand.
Yeah.
BattleTech not hitting Canada for some reason.
But yeah.
Okay. Interesting data.
Yes, Black Powder, by the way, was Napoleonic, and so basically, like, if you've got a bunch of muskets, then that's the game for you. As far as I can make out.
Okay. All right. I think we're nearing the end now, aren't we?
Yeah.
We're getting that. Well, we have been talking for quite a while, so it makes sense.
An hour and a half. Yeah. Okay. So we've got some news of our own.
Oh, yes.
We do.
Some great news. Very excited about this news.
Go on.
Yeah. Okay. So, not that. That's the wrong bit of news. Not that. There we go. That's the bit of news. So, Level Up Gateway, which I so elegantly put up on screen there.
Seamless. No one saw
Yes. Yeah. Now has got all classes from the Adventurer's Guide up to level 10. And at that milestone, today, we made the alpha test public, live, open to all. So anyone can go along to levelupgateway.com and register an account, and they can make a
character.
Yes. So
multiple characters. Even.
Multiple characters. They can make many characters.
So we've got 13 of the potential official 15 classes that are available.
The Adventurer's Guide ones, basically.
Yeah. The Artificer not having made the cut, it appears, and 7th being
Adventurer's Guide.
And 7th being also not the Adventurer's Guide, being a but also having been reworked for Level Up, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, well, the initial goal is to do the Adventurer's Guide first, and then move on to other books. So the Adventurer's Guide is what is the focus right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah, all those things 1 to 20, and then we have an internal list of how we're going to go through all the books to get them on. We keep making books, which is the issue, so the list keeps getting longer.
Yeah. So if you head on to levelupgateway.com, you can register an account. You can start making characters. It is an alpha version. We are hoping that you will report any bugs. There's a link to a form where you can do so. I mean, we've been using this basically in our home game for probably 3 or 4 months now. Basically testing it, and it's been going really, really well. It's just so great the way that you can just click on things and it'll roll dice for you and all this sort of stuff. And I don't know, I'm really proud of it. I'm really, really pleased with it.
You should be. Wow, this is real game changer. Is it possible to print? I mean, maybe it's a bit early, so this is just me being excited. Not able to print out PDFs.
Not in the alpha test yet, but that is a function that we do want to have.
It's on the roadmap, but it is probably quite a way off yet. First of all, we're going to get all those character classes up to level 20. The first thing to do. And there's apparently a bunch of behind the scenes stuff that needs doing, which you wouldn't be able to see visibly on the front, but infrastructure stuff. But that is absolutely on the roadmap. So
you can make it, print them out and take them to your table, or do some pre-gens for conventions if you're running one shots.
I mean, it does resize for mobile phones and things like that as well, which is quite nifty. So you can use the character sheet on your phone at the table.
It's in the alpha. It's levels 1 to 10. So if you try to make a level 12 character and it doesn't work, please don't report that as a bug.
Yes,
because that's
the system work is expected.
Yes, we've had a few of those. They're like, I keep trying to make a level 20 character and it's not working. It's like, what's okay.
And that, I think, is that the news. Are we done?
How is your Kickstarter going?
Oh yes, we currently have a Kickstarter running. It is. Do you know?
I reminded you.
So this week we launched the Kickstarter on Tuesday. Tariffs have taken over and made us go about everything. Luckily, tariffs aren't going to affect this specific Kickstarter because we're doing this as a print-on-demand order. So we're aware of the April rates that were changed for print-on-demand. So that has been included in the costing. We're fulfilling the Secrets of the Grave last Kickstarter. Now we've got this the next one. So Machines in the Deep, it's gone live. It funded within the first hour, I believe. Was it hour? Anyway, but
nice.
So it's done. It's happening. We've got 13 days to go. And as always, we give you the PDF the same day the crowdfund ends. So that'll be in 13 days. And if you want to pick up a physical copy, we'll open surveys. And then after 2 weeks, tell us where you live and we'll send it to you after 2 weeks. And 2 weeks is because that's how long Kickstarter takes to take your money, process it, and send it to us. So we like to have the money to give
me
to.
Sending it to you this time instead of Jess, because Jess is not going to be here for the next 2 weeks. You're going to miss Jess on the podcast because you are going to be somewhere much nicer than here.
The tariffs really upset me, so I'm just getting out of the country.
So no Jess for 2 weeks.
I'm sure so if anything goes wrong with this fulfillment for Machines in the Deep,
it'll be my fault. It'll be my fault.
I'm sure it won't.
I'm sure it will, but hey.
How could you? Anyway, I'll write a guide. But so I won't be here for the next few weeks on the podcast. Not D&D will continue because I've done some pre-recording. So if you watch Not D&D on Monday, listen to that podcast. I've got 2 great creators that are happy and luckily were available to pre-record with me. So that'll keep going. But there also won't be this week in Tabletop RPG, the 3-week summary. So you will have to listen to a longer waffle of news than the 3-minute version for the next few weeks.
Yeah. Well, with that, I think we are done for the week.
Yes.
Huzzah! Let's get out of here. It is the hottest day of the year so far, apparently. A mighty 21 degrees Celsius.
That's wild.
Amazing.
Where do we think we are? Spain?
apparently it's hotter than Mallorca.
That is not what I expect to hear
No.
about the UK. I'll be honest.
Well, I'm going to go get my sunscreen on then.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
Joking, I'm already wearing factor 25 sitting indoors.
And you're indoors.
Yeah, I wear factor 15 indoors every day.
No, you are Welsh. It's understandable.
I don't think that's a Welsh thing. It's just a me.
Yeah.
Anyway, should we go?
Yes,
Yeah,
moving
let's
on
get out of
quickly.
here.
Right.
Let's get out of here.
Goodbye.
All right then. Goodbye, everybody. And Peter and I will see you next week. Jess will not.
I will not.
You will not. All right. Goodbye, everybody.
We'll soldier on without you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
All the tabletop role-playing news. We aim to amuse and we aim to enthuse. And Morris's unofficial tabletop RPG.